This is Natural Powerlifting Radio. Deadlifts, chicken nuggets, video games. This is Check My Total, a powerlifting podcast with Timothy Payne and Andrew Hinson.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's another episode of your favorite podcast, sponsoring by your two favorite bros here. And today, we're going to talk about when to use isolation movements and why use isolation movements over compound movements in some cases, or we're just going to kind of talk about that today.
First things first, I guess we need to define what both of those are.
So, a compound movement is a movement that uses multiple muscle groups, like the squat, bench, and deadlift, and things of that nature. And an isolation movement is something that's very targeted, hits 1 to 2 muscle groups generally it's a certain motor pattern, like a bicep curl or a lat pull down, and or the iron neck. I guess that's an isolation.
You talking about where you like chain something to your head?
Yeah, I'm talking about that big contraption, the iron neck.
Oh, that thing Rogan uses, Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's isolation. I think so.
I guess that's an isolation. I haven't done a whole lot of neck stuff, so.
Yeah, I know.
I guess that's isolation, but yeah, things like your bicep curls, your hamstring curls, a lot of your isolation movements are done on machines.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, because I'm thinking of, like board presses and rack pulls. Because, when we're talking about stuff, we're always talking about through the lens of a power lifter. But I would consider those isolation movements.
Yeah, I guess you could consider those isolation. They're isolating. That's almost like isolating a lift, like a certain area of a lift.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that counts. I guess that's isolation.
I would throw that in.
Yeah, a little bit different take. Isolation of muscle groups and then an isolation of technical lift.
Right.
So, yeah, there's certain things like that. But so generally speaking, I think we can all agree that compound lifts, doing squats is going to give you more benefits than, doing a leg extension. I think that data has been proven quite a bit. I even read a study by this site called Hinson. I think that's how I pronounce that. But it was basically where they took soccer players and they made them do isolation movements versus compound movements. And what happened basically the end result was the people that did the compound movements gained more strength in certain areas. But what was interesting is the isolation group had to do leg extensions, and the compound movement group never did leg extensions. But at the end of all their training, which I forget how many weeks it was, the people that did squats could do more on their leg extensions than the people that just did leg extensions.
That is kind of interesting. But when you do compound movements, you're also working a bunch of stabilizer muscles and things that you necessarily wouldn't be working doing isolation.
Yeah.
So that might be another reason why those compound people were a little bit stronger.
Oh yeah, yeah. The data definitely trends towards compound lifts over isolation lifts all the time. I mean, it's good to mix them all into training, but I guess we're gonna take the route of when and why to use isolation movements. Well, one of the first reasons I think of is you can only do so many compound movements before your body is just worn out.
Right.
So, like, I can only squat, bench, and deadlift so much before I'm just like. Plus, you have to think of like just diminishing returns. Like, how many? I mean, is it better for me to just go into the gym and do one exercise and squat for 10 to 15 sets? Or is it better for me to hit, 5, 6, 7 sets of good hard squats and then move on?
Well, from a
So,
programming standpoint, I think you're doing most of your isolation movements as accessory work or like on your speed or dynamic days.
yeah,
So, like I said, from a powerlifting lens, you're wanting to do both kind of movements all week. Now, this is if you can hit like 4 days a week.
yeah,
So the less days that you're working out, you probably need to focus more on doing compound lifts.
yeah, that's true. So one reason is just fatigue to do your isolation movements. Another reason for it would be, like you were saying, is accessory work. So generally, you can tailor your accessories to help you through other parts in your compound lifts. Like your isolation should feed your compound. So, like for the squat, for instance, doing some hamstring curls or the glute ham raises, that'll help your deadlift and your squat. And I guess it also kind of works your core, keeping your spine straight and everything. But your accessories should help your compounds. Yeah. So, if you're squatting and deadlifting, and the only isolation work you do throughout your whole week is like bicep curling, not so sure that's going to go too well.
Right.
It'll carry over to your bench a little bit.
A little bit, but
A little bit, but not a whole lot.
I think the main takeaway is you don't want your isolation lifts to be your main lifts. Like if you're trying to strengthen your lower body and get your legs strong, you need a squat. You don't need to make leg pressing your priority.
Yeah. And now if you're done with your squats and you need some, like, I'm trying to think of like if you need to work on your quads, if your gym has one of those fancy belt squat machines, or I'm not a huge leg press guy, but if that's all you got, to if you have weak quads and stuff, but I'd almost rather stand on 2 wooden boxes and do kettlebell squats.
Yeah, and another good reason to do isolation movements is if you're having to rehab a certain part and you're not able to do compound movements.
Yep.
For example, I tore my hamstring, so I ended up doing a lot of, like one-legged hamstring curls on a machine. So, rehab, you just got to do what you got to do.
That's true. You kind of gotta do whatever your body allows you. I've had to throw some different and more accessories into my stuff.
And this is kind of a side tangent, but the more you can be closer to doing barbell movements is where you need to be at to get strong. Like machines and stuff are great and they'll get you, toned and fit to a certain point, but you're not going to get as strong doing machines and isolation work as you would working with barbells.
Yeah, that's true. Trying to. I had a thought, but I forgot what it was. Hmm. And then I think another thing to think about with isolation work is that you can generally do more work with an isolation than you can a compound. What I mean by that is you might be able to do more sets and reps with isolation because it's only one muscle group, like a bicep curl. Like you
I
can
guess,
easily do 10 sets of bicep curls.
yeah, I guess volume would be a better way to explain that. You can do more volume.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I know this is kind of a short talk, but that kind of explains it all to me. I mean, I guess we could go over, which we've kind of already done this on past podcasts, though, go over some isolation movements that you might want to keep in your routine on top of your compounds.
Yeah, I guess we'll hit the deadlift. I think one of your best isolation works for that is if you have a glute ham raise, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Um,
deadlift and squat.
yeah. I think uh I think for the one for the squat is well, this is just for all lifts in general, but those ab rollouts.
Yeah, I mean, I really never thought about them until Andrew turned me on to them. I guess it was like your freshman year of college. You like came back from college and was like, I've been doing these ab rollouts and they've really helped my squat. So that's the first time I ever really thought about doing anything like that. Like I know you need to work your core and get it strong, but making it, a focused accessory for your squat, yeah, those are that's a good idea to do, the rollouts.
Yeah,
Um,
because I'm not really that big of a fan of a sit up. Because I mean, a sit ups doesn't you don't like no time in the three lifts do you want to be crunched over.
right.
So I don't really think. Although I did realize I should probably start doing some sit ups because you do that motion a lot in jujitsu.
Oh yeah. Well, you're constantly on your back.
Yeah, you do that a
Um,
lot.
and another thing with the ab rollouts is that you're working your obliques and stuff too, because if you're using, I guess you have to use a wheel to do the rollouts. You got to balance yourself on that wheel with your
Yeah, the only
hands.
other way I've found that kind of does it similar is if you do it with dumbbells. Have two rolly dumbbells.
Oh, yeah.
That'll do it about as well as a wheel. But those
Yeah.
are really good for all the lifts. There's trying to think of more. I was going to say stiff leg deadlifts, but that's more of just an. I don't know if I'd count that as isolation.
Right.
Uh, because that's more of a compound accessory. But rows,
Yeah. For your bench press. Well, I guess everything too. Your shoulders and lats.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I like plate raises.
yeah. Plate raises. I actually haven't done plate raises in a while. I should probably put those back in.
Yeah, for like your rear delts and a little bit of everything. Um, this just popped in my head. I know I brought up board presses and rack pulls. I guess the better phrase for that would be partials, not isolation.
Yeah.
So maybe, in the future we'll have a podcast about partials and when to use them and why you should use them. So stay tuned for that.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what would you classify as what do you think like throwing a medicine ball in the air and catching it back down? That's not really isolation. That's just
I like using medicine balls for core work.
oh yeah, getting taught like side like twisting or whatever.
Yeah, you can do it with a partner. You stand back to back or sit back to back and you twist back and forth, heading off the medicine ball, or doing sit ups and passing the medicine ball back and forth. Um, I've never really done the wall ball thing, and that's just because it's never been available where I've been working out at.
Yeah,
Where you squat down, then squat back up and thrust the ball up on the wall. That seems more like a compound movement, though, using everything.
that's true. Another one is, we do a lot of those tricep extensions.
Yeah, I
I'm
love
telling
those.
you that if people are having issues with their bench press, man, lay on the ground and do tricep extensions. Make sure you're on the ground though. Take your back out of it.
Yeah,
I'm
and take
telling
that
you.
rocking out of it too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, West Side, they kind of do like a rock motion with it. We try to do them as strict as possible. And when you do tricep extensions, which I'm sure we've talked about this before, you need to do them high volume. We'll do either 8 sets of 7 or 7 sets of 8, just whichever way you want to do it. But
yeah,
yeah, you work those triceps down near your elbow. That's how you build your bench press. Excuse me, don't get choked up talking about triceps.
yeah. Because I mean, if you're doing the tricep extensions low volume, I mean, I don't I don't really know. You're not gonna get. I don't think you're gonna get that much bang per buck.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I just doubt it. So what do you think about if you're a bodybuilder, the compound versus isolation?
Now,
Do you
if you're a
think you?
bodybuilder, I would stay in machines and stuff. Excuse me. Um, the reason for that is there's really no point to get strong bodybuilding because what
Yeah,
you're looking for in bodybuilding are your symmetry, how healthy and big your muscles look, which I know healthy is a loose term now with all the PEDs and steroids and stuff, but symmetry, how full your muscle is, things like that. So you're more focused on building muscle than you are getting strong. So how do you build muscle? Well, you need to isolate what muscle groups you're trying to work at a time. So I think bodybuilding wise, it is more isolation than it would be, powerlifting or strongman.
yeah. But come to think of it, I don't know many. I don't really see a lot of isolation work with strongman.
I
I
don't
don't really,
know.
I don't really see him do a lot of isolation work. But I mean, I've seen him do some lat pull downs and some back isolation, but I rarely see strongman doing like bicep curls.
Right.
Well, it's
And
probably
my
because
brain,
they're doing all those events in their training. So
right, my brain just keeps going back to partials and like ways to use partials in your lifting. But
yeah,
yeah, as far as just straight up isolation, I think that's more in the bodybuilding world.
I wonder. I mean, wonder how good. I'd be interested to see a study done. I guess it might be a little unethical, but I wonder if you like trap people in a room and like you could only do isolation exercises. Like you can only do like a machine bicep curl, like that's on uh like kind of like a a lat pull down rack,
Mm-hmm.
versus if you trap someone in a room and told them to do bicep curls with dumbbells. I wonder what the result of that study would be. Like if you had them in that room for 8 weeks and they could just, I wonder what the different sizes of the muscle would be. I would say the person doing the dumbbell curls would be stronger than the
I
one
think
that's
so.
doing the one on the machine.
Yeah, because as much as a dumbbell curl looks like you're staying in the same pathway and same, um, line of direction, you can't be perfect with it like you can with a machine. So
Hmm.
once again, you're working stabilizer muscles and it's hitting your muscle different than, the machine forcing you to be in the same line every single time.
Hey, what do you think about a like a prowler push or a sled push? That isolation or is that
That's whole
not
body,
isolation?
dude. I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I don't really know. It's not a partial and it's not a. That's just an accessory.
yeah. Um, I know you said you read a couple articles. Was there anything interesting in the articles you want to bring up, or any, little details?
Mainly the articles as a whole, almost every article you said was it's basically they do studies like compound versus isolation, and I mean obviously compound wins in all of them, which I mean that's pretty obvious. Um, but I mean the at the end of the day, you need to do both.
Right. And we
So
already hit on this earlier. If you can, get into the gym a couple days a week, and that way you can hit more stuff. But
yeah,
it just depends really on your time and schedule, what you can and what you can't do.
yeah.
So
I
if
mean
you
if you
if
ain't
you can
got,
only go, yeah, if you can only go twice a week, I would focus on squat. Dude, I'm having problems.
dude, you're dying.
I know. I would focus on squatting, and the second day, some kind of upper body work. But then again, if you got a couple hours and you're only doing a couple days a week, you can, add your accessory work. Accessory. I need to learn how to say that word. It just depends on your time.
Yeah, like this week, I gotta do more compound because I've only been to the gym once because I've had to stay late at work all week and been doing jujitsu. So I gotta wake
Yeah.
up early and hit the gym tomorrow.
Yep.
Man, they have been working me like crazy. Gotta get our project ends next week.
Well,
Gotta show out to the big boys.
thank you for saving the world, though.
That's right. I'm doing stuff.
That you can't say, but at least you're helping us out.
But hey, yo, I was gonna ask, what's your opinion on Disney Plus?
Well, hey, let's hold off and do a podcast on it because I was actually going to get Kyle to get on here. We
Yeah,
watched that Mandalorian show, which is on Disney Plus,
is that the Bounty
and
Hunter?
yeah, the Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast and do Mandalorian and talk about Disney Plus?" And he said, "Yeah." So maybe we'll do that next week. New episodes come out every Friday, so episode two's coming out tomorrow. So maybe we'll podcast about that next week.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah,
But
we'll be a week behind everybody, but I think all of our reviews have been that way,
yeah,
except for Game Changers. I think that's the only one where we were ahead of the curve, and maybe West Side,
yeah,
because we did West Side like a day or two after it came out, or a week or two. We weren't too far behind. But yeah, um, you got any last comments?
I think basically the key points are do isolation. Generally
Compound.
uh after your compound, unless
Yep.
you might do some isolation for a little warm up or something, But for the main part, after your compounds, isolation work is best when you can't do your compound lifts or you're injured and need rehab, or your isolation needs to feed into your compound lifts and make you stronger. So don't just sit around and do bicep curls all day.
Right.
And really, that's about it. You can look up different studies. That one I saw was on Mino Science, or however you pronounce that, Minnow Science, something like that. Yeah,
Yep.
Hinselmans.com. Hinselman. So there's multiple studies out there. The data trends in favor of compound lifts for making you stronger overall. So I think that's pretty obvious. So do compounds when you can, and
Yep.
supplement it with isolation.
Yeah,
That's
and like always, if you want to debate us and come on the podcast, send us a message because
yep.
we love to hear other opinions and, like I said, chat it out.
Yeah, if you think we're wrong, then tell us, because
Yeah.
we might be.
Yep. Ain't nothing. There's. I was gonna say there ain't nothing wrong with being wrong. That's
True.
all a
True.
learning experience. See, this
You're
is my
right.
like. I've been working for a school too long. I'm all positive and
Uh,
kids. You gotta look at the silver lining. They'll all be okay.
I couldn't be a teacher, man. I'd be like, kids, this is the best time. It don't
This
get
is
no
life.
better. It don't get no better. Look where
Yep.
I am.
Well, I say you're doing pretty good.
I am until I'm banging my head against the wall, wondering why this code don't work.
True. And then one day you'll have babies, and babies will change your mind.
Yeah,
Who knows? But hey, you want to break this thing down?
I will break this thing down. People of all nationalities, fast food chains, and donut opinions. We love you for listening in every single week. Before I lay my head in bed, I think about every single listener we have, all the way from Taiwan to Japan. I don't actually think we have metrics in Japan, but we might now. I don't know. We've been out for a little bit. Maybe someone in Japan
Oh
is
yeah.
listening
We
to
got
us.
people in Japan. We
Oh,
do.
we do?
Yeah. I was
Oh,
just thinking, like,
konnichiwa! Good morning.
how far away is Taiwan from Japan, though? Are they
Oh,
close? They're
I don't
far?
know. Let me get the map out.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're saying. I just love how you say all our people from Taiwan to Japan, and they're probably like super close. Maybe not.
let's see. Maps. Taiwan to Japan. They're on different islands, but they actually are kind of close. All right, so from all our listeners from here we go, ladies and gentlemen. A shout out to all our listeners in Japan, Taiwan,
Woo!
South Korea. Probably not North Korea. We're probably banned there. If we got any people in China, their internet's censored. I think we got some people in the Middle East somewhere. We got some India listeners. Shout out to any people in India. Shout out to Saudi Arabia. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. So let's see. Anyone in
Andrew,
the
just wrap this thing
European?
up, dude.
Dude, I got the Google map up. Algeria. I think about y'all every night. It doesn't matter where you're from. Every night I lay down, I think about you. I think about how you're doing, the culture you're in, the gyms you got, the people you see, the people you meet. And ladies and gentlemen, dinner just got done for me, so I'm going to peace on out of here. Remember, isolation and compound. Compound over isolation. Isolation over metrics, and metrics over grubs. See you on Grubhub. Peace out.
We're out. Up next is the IBP Carolina Christmas Classic in Spartanburg, South Carolina on December 7th. Gather up the reindeer, hop in your sleigh, and come on down. For more information and to register, go to ironboypowerlifting.com.
Please subscribe and thank you for listening. Be sure to follow @CheckMyTotal on Instagram for all the latest updates.